Hi, postman. What's up? Doing your duty for the American people, I see. Oh, we have a letter. Just from the one that we just... Yeah. Okay. Letter from Agatha. Why not? Let's go ahead and read that right now. I think this letter is fascinating. Agatha had a dream last night. Butterflies surrounded Agatha and lifted her up into the sky. As she waved to the people below in Castletown, she could see so many people, some waving back, others staring wide-eyed. Agatha flew in a big circle around Hyrule Field, and the butterflies formed into a bed beneath her and said, "Let's play again." Soon they faded away, and she woke up in her own bed. Oh, how badly she wants that to happen. And that's really... Whenever I saw that, that's what I expected to happen. After collecting all of the bugs and giving them to her. I thought that something super cool like that, where she's lifted up into the sky, would actually be what happens. Turns out it doesn't, and that was all just a dream, and it was going to stay a dream. And that's fine, but yeah, like, I couldn't really expect that much of a climactic ending to such a sort of tedious quest, I guess, that doesn't have a main story purpose. Still, it would have been really cool to see. The reward that you get, I guess, is still cool enough. Maybe it's not that cool, but it could be useful. Should I even bother trying to hide the spoiler of what it is? Because she already gives you a 600 rupee wallet, and that's nice. And then once you spend, or not once you spend, but once you get all of the money, giving her all the other bugs, and you don't really have another better way of getting money really quickly, that's when she gives you the 1,000 rupee wallet. But, yeah. Here's the first owl statue that I'm going to pick up with my bare hands. Just, I pick it up, throw it. Not to be confused with the owl statues in Majora's Mask, which are entirely different and serve very different purposes. And probably aren't even in the same, like, connected Zelda timeline nonsense, although... Oh yeah, that's another rant I wanted to go on. The fact that the Zelda timeline is stupid, and doesn't... For the longest time, I remember before the Zelda timeline existed, not entirely sure when it started, but, you know, Zelda 1 came out, and people were really excited about the game and playing it, and it was this big explorative, you know, it was the best exploration that games had at that point. And then you have more Zelda games, and as time went on, it was really unclear as to how they were connected. People wanted to make a story out of them because they had their own lore, and so that's when people started asking for a Zelda timeline. How does this one fit in with this one? Where did these things come from? How did this happen? Yada yada yada. And people theorized about the Ocarina of Time having a split time, or like starting a split in the timeline, because there's the future where adult Link defeats Ganon, and also the future where young Link and Zelda get Ganondorf arrested. And, you know, that's all well and good. But then, when Nintendo actually caved in and finally made a Zelda timeline after everyone said, "Hey, please make a timeline, make a timeline, make a timeline," and they're like, "No!" And that was all they said. Just, I think they might have even had an automated message to, like, in response to anyone that mentioned Zelda, they said, "No, there is no official Zelda timeline, go away," essentially. They just wanted everyone to shut up about it. But I think eventually they just said, you know, okay, we'll make up a timeline to appease the kiddies. And so they did, and people didn't like it because it's wrong. There's no reason that Skyward Sword Link should have a hat when Minish Cap, which comes afterwards in the timeline, is like the establishing story of how the hat came into existence, as one example. In Ocarina of Time, there's no reason to also have a timeline that splits off where Link fails against Ganondorf, because he doesn't. You can't just have a timeline where he's an adult and a timeline where he's young, and have that be it, and also have a third result that didn't happen. Like, it's kind of like Schrodinger's cat. You know, with the cat that's if you don't know whether the cat in the box is alive or dead, then it must be both alive and dead, except in this case, the box is open, and we can see that the cat is alive. So, it's not really a Schrodinger's cat, it's just a cat. I know that game theory has that explanation of... I don't know exactly what it's called, but the whole parallel universes thing where... anytime that you make a decision, an alternate universe is created where that decision doesn't happen. In which case, why even... If that's what the Zelda universe is going off of, then there's no reason to even have a timeline, because every single event in any of the games could split off into a billion different timelines. So... I don't know, it's just... Another thing is, how did the Moblins come to existence when Ganondorf made the Moblins, and yet he's not in the earliest games? And all this stuff. There's so many flaws with the timeline that I don't pay attention to it. I don't really care that much about it. I think it's interesting with this game, thinking about how, like, the Uka might have been the original sages that kind of brought things together. Not the three sages, or not the three goddesses, I mean, but they were like the first Hylians or something. I don't remember. I talk about this in my Leisure Replay thing, but there's something that Shad says about that, and apparently that was mistranslated, from what I've heard. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but either way, it's just... There are enough flaws with it that it doesn't really matter to me what happens in whatever timeline. I just pay attention to what's within each game, I think. You know, Majora's Mask is a sequel to Ocarina of Time, so that happened after that one. There's Wind Waker, then Phantom Hourglass, then Spirit Tracks. I'm willing to accept that much. And I would like to pretend that Minish Cap was the first one in the timeline. Even though you could also say, like, Skyward Sword must have come first because that's the explanation of how they travel to Hyrule and travel to the surface. But then, like, how did they... Where did they just live in the sky always until they found Hyrule? Where did Hyrule even... I don't know, never mind. It's too much to think about, with no hope of a result. There's also, like... It's trying to, like... words. It's kind of like trying to make sense of Banjo-Kazooie, and how there's no reason that Banjo should have a picture of Bottles in his house when they haven't met until after he leaves his house. Just stuff like that. And there's a lot of stuff in that game that doesn't make any sense, but... This footage is stuttering for me as I watch it. I hope that's not actually showing up in the video, but if it is, then... my bad, I guess. I know that there are certain parts later up that are going to show up really dark, and I apologize for that, because I don't know how to make this game brighter than it is. I've tried editing it brighter in Vegas. It doesn't really matter with this part, because this part's, you know, it's just a bright area, so it's fine, but yeah. We're going to be going into some dark caves where it's just complete black darkness. This is my least favorite chest to reach. And it doesn't help that it's just an orange rupee, so if you have a full wallet, then doing all that work isn't going to get you anything. Yeah, I still don't think the owl statue stuff here is all that big of an issue. They're relatively fast. You can get them all done in a matter of minutes. The Farron Woods one is kinda cool because it's just a place that you revisit after so long where there's nothing really here that you have to do, and then all of a sudden there is again. The only thing about this one is that I remember having a really hard time finding it because the big black and red dot on the map looks like it's in the poisonous, gassy area sort of near the Forest Temple, but it's not actually there. That's not actually the place that you have to go. What you have to do is go by Afro Thunder's place here. There's a rock over here, you break the rock. And of course I like to break the rocks with a ball and chain because it's hardcore. And you also get a yellow rupee from doing that, which you also would have done with a bomb, but I like pointing out rupees even though there's no reason to. And here's this other sky character. I should have been pointing out what these look like. That one kind of looked like a teardrop, maybe? There's one that looks... I feel stupid making this reference, even though there's not really a reason for me to feel stupid making it, but some people would consider it stupid. I am not a brony by any means, but one of them looks kind of like Derpy's cutie mark, because it's like bubbly and stuff. And then there's one that just kind of looks like sperm. Whatever. One that maybe is a cat or something, maybe a goose. It's either a cat or a goose. He was either 12 or 5. And we get a piece of heart. I could tell that this one was going to be a piece of heart because there was that cutscene whenever the owl statue was secured in the right place. You know, you're not going to get an important looking cutscene like that if it's not a heart piece. They wouldn't go to all that effort. Of course, I don't really know how Nintendo decides what should and shouldn't be... what events should or shouldn't have a certain kind of reward. I've been thinking about that lately with, like, I'm kind of considering making my big, ambitious project more like a collectathon than just a straight story-based game. Because, well, I want it to still have a story and I want it to be an important focus, but I don't want it to be the whole focus of all the... Well, basically I'm just... Oh, I think this is the derpy one. Yeah, this is the derpy one. Those are the bubbles. They're not really that bubbly, but oh well. Shut up. Yeah, I've been thinking, like, it would be appropriate for me to just pretend that the game is nothing but a collectathon for a while and just ignore the existence of a story, because in that way I can just have total freedom for whatever I want to put in the game. And I can just focus on it being fun as opposed to being logical or being important or something like that. And having everything mesh together well. So, in a case like that, I wonder how, with a game like Banjo-Kazooie, they decide what qualifies as something that's worth getting a Jiggy for as opposed to getting a honeycomb piece that increases your health, or like a Mumbo token or something. So in this game's case, I wonder what they decide should warrant a heart piece versus an orange rupee. A lot of times it feels kind of the same. Not that I mind too terribly much. Because there is a fortune teller in Hyrule Castle Town that tells you where, or gives you a hint as to where a heart piece is that you might have not found. The only thing about that is she doesn't give you any hints on how to find the pose, and I don't think there's any way to keep track of pose, except for just knowing where they all are from a checklist online, and then just making sure that you fill out the whole checklist. Is this the one that looks vaguely like a cat? Kind of. It's like... what is it, a Nesquik bottle, maybe? But with a tail? That's what I'm gonna go with. Because I think Nesquik bottles are kind of curved like that. Oh, I think I remember what happens here. This is kind of great. This postman out of nowhere. While we're in the middle of our mission. And it is from Shad. News must travel fast if we just finished our writing and Shad comes up and is like, hey, did you find all the pieces yet? Which isn't what he says, because he doesn't know that you're collecting sky pieces, the letters, whatever, but still. Post haste. I love how proper he is. in general, I like Shad's dialogue for being so proper and prim and like Owl from Winnie the Pooh. I just watched Winnie the Pooh's Grand Adventure with my girlfriend, and that was frickin' awesome. We've been watching movies together, and that in particular, I was just in the mood to watch because I've been kind of in a Poohy mood, you could say. Just kind of, not feeling the best, but wanting to get a little bit of childhood fun in my mind, and also I don't know, I've just had a craving for Pooh, guys. So many jokes you could make with that. But, it was a lot of fun. That movie, it's a simple movie, but it's imaginative, and it's so innocent, even in its darkest moments, and that's something that I feel like I've kind of missed with my own creativity. Like, in addition to wanting to be less concerned with logic and less concerned with meaning with stuff that I create, I also want to be less... well, no, I guess that really does pretty much just describe it. I don't want to be too stingy about logic. And the Winnie the Pooh movie that we watched definitely does not, because it has musical numbers, and, you know, you have Owl singing about going on this great big adventure, and then the whole world around the characters turns into a big map, and, you know, there's no way that's going to happen in real life. And the colors change into these crazy artistic, artsy colors, and it's just cool. And then Rabbit has his own musical number about following the map, and it's not, I'm the map, I'm the map, I'm the map. It's better than that. But as he's talking about where to go and what to do and how the map is always correct, just signs pop up everywhere that point in different directions, just popping out of the ground, and that's cool. And then there's a part where Pooh is sleeping and all these leaves blow in because it's the first day of autumn, and they all balance delicately on his nose, and it's cool. I like it. Doesn't have to make sense. It's fun. Speaking of it doesn't have to make sense, it's fun. We just gave this guy like $1,000 or 1,000 rupees, and a heart fell out of the sky. Because the heart loves us. Money is the way to the sky's heart. Apparently. Yeah, just in general, Winnie the Pooh is awesome. People thought that I didn't like Winnie the Pooh. And people were saying, why do you hate Winnie the Pooh so much? Because I had that image of Pooh just gored in half, and the first one had a Flumpties, and then the second one had Piglet dissected like a usual pig. But no, I actually very much like Winnie the Pooh. I think it's the best. Or at least it's a very good source of nostalgia, and it still holds up as being fun and amusing. There were multiple points in that movie where I laughed out loud, because the dialogue is great. And, yeah, like I was saying, I want to learn how to be more innocent again, because I tend to, if I'm going to have any danger in anything that I make, I want it to be very real danger, and I want it to feel like very real danger, as opposed to what Pooh does, which is have things that aren't actually dangerous, make them seem a little bit more dangerous, but they're still pretty much in good fun. And now we're going to spend our money on more stuff. Specifically the Mallow Mart. Goodness gracious, the Mallow Mart. The stuff of nightmares. Oh man. We'll get to that eventually.